because these are the sort of things that as we grow up, it builds us as individuals, and the habits that we see our parents doing are the things that we carry on with doing when we grow up. We don't realize that we are picking these habits up, but actually when you look back, we are actually picking the habits that we see our parents or any guidance that we any guardian that we live with in our household, or anyone that we are really close with. We tend to pick up some of these habits. And I'm not saying that these are bad habits, but I think it's something psychologically when we do the analysis, it's something that has been passed down for years and years and years. And we're not realizing that these are the things that we are, picking up. And everything goes back to the point of budgeting. So there's going to be a slide that will come up. And there are three people that I really admire within when we talk about budgeting. That you can go to the first slide, where one of the first person that I really admire is okay. Thank you very much. So, yeah. So Rachel said the way we spend our money is a reflection of our priorities. And Warren Buffett says that do not save what is left after spending, but spend what is left after saving. And Dave Ramsey says a budget is telling your money where to go instead of wondering where it went. When you when you analyze these three quotes from these three key personalities in the world, when we're thinking about it, actually the money is very tied to our emotions, is very tied to how we are feeling, how we see the world, how we intend to how we tend we do things on a daily basis. And it's so telling that the way we prioritize reflects the way we budget. So from the back of these three codes, we can stop our conversations from today and look at prioritization, understanding where our money is going, and also thinking about savings. How we spend our money is out as a result of what we get from our savings, and so have you. So there's these quotes strikes me. It keeps me thinking. It keeps and every time I speak with people, I go back to these things and I look at the first principles as we look at how life is. But one of the things that always do is to do a bit of history. Um, so the next slide gives you information about what a budget is. So in here, it gives a definition, and we all know what a budget is. It's an outline of your expected income and expenditure over a period of time. But the key to everything that we're going to talk about today is ensuring that we our expenses do not exceed our income at least. And one of the things that I ask when I do one-to-one consultation is someone will say, I find myself spending more than my income. And I ask the question, how is that possible? How is that you spending, let's say your income is £100 and you end up spending £150 in a month? Is it that you are using a credit card? Is it that you're using an overdraft or a loan? Or what is driving you to overspend what more than what you earn? And these are the questions sometimes the majority of the time the easiest answers that I get is I don't know, I do not know. But however, if you're very confident in your budgeting, you would know exactly where you've gone wrong. And I always equate budgeting to, let's say if you were ill and you went to the hospital and you met your GP or your doctor or a physician. My wife is a physiotherapist, and one of the things that she does is she diagnoses the issues of her patients, and she asks loads and loads of questions for us to understand exactly where the issue is, where the pain is, and then she can prescribe what sort of medications and treatment that they can give you. This is the same thing that the budget does. The budget is meant for you to ask yourself questions about where your money is going. Okay. So you need to sit down and ask what is happening with my money, and for you to deduce to the point of where exactly where the issues are, and then you can start addressing it. So let's look at some history of what budgeting, how budgeting came about. So this whole term we can trace it back to the Asian civilization like Egypt, and these are when we can start finding the roots of budgeting from those times. And it started as a ledger and a bookkeeping where public works and military and activities were tracked those days. And when we move into the modern 17th and 19th century, the budget translated into government, and the government started recording detailed expenditure of the public expenses. So every year, when you think about every year, we have our chancellor standing in front of number 10 with a red briefcase. In that red briefcase, it contains the government or the nation, United Kingdom's budget for the year. And it tells where the money that they've received and where they're going to spend the money. And we move on to the 20th century where um, corporations started incorporating this into their everyday management of their companies. And I don't know if anyone of you here have experienced whenever a business is in crisis, one of the things that they do, or there are several things they do, but one of the key things that they do is to go back to their budget. And their CFO will analyze what is happening with the business financially to make decisions. And one of the things they do is cutting costs, basically. So cutting costs could be in various ways, and the simplest ways is to reduce headcounts and make people redundant. And I've had my fair share of redundancies. I've experienced this, and businesses cutting costs, even to the point of something like even Santander. Many retail banks are closing their branches, and everything is going to go online. These are all cost cutting measures that the business, and these are driven by the business's budget and how they can maximize their or minimize their expenses in a way. So when we think about that, in the early 20th, let's say the 21st century, budget as a reflection came into our household. So as human beings, we introduce this in our household. So it's something that we tend to do in our household individually, as a couple, as a family, in various settings. And now, when you open your app store, you can actually just put the word budget there, and there will be a lot of budgeting tools that you can use. One of my simplest thing, and I go back to the basis. I'm a really old school person. The simple things I do is take a piece of paper, a pen, and get a calculator. Even your phones will have a calculator. So these are the three things you need when you want a budget. So and there are apps where it links to your bank accounts, and it will tell you exactly what your expenses are, what your income is, and how you can go about to manage that. So budgeting has been embedded in our lives now, and we cannot do without it. And to even understand it all is one of the things that I'll say. Why is budgeting very important? So on the next slide, budgeting is important because it provides us with a clear plan for managing our money. And have you heard of the term that says a fool with his money is soon departed? I'm sure we've all heard about that. So, and in life, obviously, we all pay bills, we all work, we all earn our income. But if we do not have a concrete plan, a budget, we will be misusing the funds that we are receiving. And in terms of decision making, If you're able to have a budget, it helps you to make the right decisions, the financial decisions, and stay in control of your resources. So if you have kids, it helps you to plan for their future. And if you have your spouse, you both can have a goal that you want to work towards. A budget helps you to plan for that. So on the next slide, this is something that comes into my mind, and this is a personal thing for me. There are there are some attributes here that you may relate to, something like a house, a car, phone, job, but there are other attributes which are not tangible, such as stress, anxiety, low mood management. The way you feel is depression. All these things happens in life. And I don't know about you, whether you've experienced that before. Even fear is one of the things that one may have as a result of managing their money. But if you are able to have a budget, this will help you understand, put everything into perspective, all the emotions that you're feeling and everything that you're worried about paying or what you are unable to pay. It helps you to put perspective of it. It gives you a clear picture of what the problems are. So it's a vital tool that one needs to develop. And if you haven't, it's one that I would always encourage you to do. But before you do that, there are some key things that I always encourage people to do before setting yourself a budget. So that will be on the next slide. The first is, and which is very important, is to set time aside without distractions. Okay. You need to allocate, if you're receiving your income, let's say on a weekly basis, I would say do it on a weekly basis. If you're receiving it every fortnightly, you do that. Every month, you do that. How often you receive your income or any source of your revenue, you have to do a budget. Set some time aside to plan adequately. Because failing to plan will it will result to certain things happening that you may not foresee. And we cannot plan for everything that happens in life. There are incidences that happens that we didn't foresee. But however, having a budget minimizes the impact of it. Okay. So that's the first thing I would always encourage you all to do. The second thing is to decide who your budget is for. It could be for yourself, it could be for your partner, it could be for your family, and so of you. So you have to make that decision. Am I budgeting just solely for me, or am I budgeting for my family included as well? And the third thing I would always say, gather together all your bank statements, household bills, and receipts. The reason is, when every time I do a review with people and ask them, okay, so how much do you pay for your council tax? And then we go into a good 10, 15 minutes figuring this out. If you have your bank statement or your bills at hand, you can easily see how much the bill will be. And I want you to get into a habit of knowing these figures as often, and getting you prepared on how your expenses are going to look like. So it's very important. We don't want to be doing a budget on a guesswork. We need to be as accurate as possible. Okay, that's the fifth point. But let's look at the fourth point. The fourth point is, do not do not get emotional and be objective. And this is very important. The reason I say that is, emotions can carry us to certain parts of our lives where we will be making decisions which, objectively, looking at our budget, we cannot do. And I've been in a torn situations where, in certain cases where I'm drawn to certain things that I cannot afford, but because I put that emotion into it, I'm not thinking objectively. So it's very important to put that aside. It's something that I think is a difficult thing to do, but the more you're doing this, eventually you get into a habit of putting your emotions aside and looking at your figures objectively and making the right decisions. And the fifth point is to be accurate as possible with your figures. So as much as you can in the financial world, accuracy is key. So we need to know exactly. So if your council tax is, let's say, £90 a month, we put £90 in a month. We're not doing guesswork. We have to put exactly how much you spend. There are occasions where, for example, food, it can fluctuate depending on the time you buy, or if there's discounts, if there's promotions. Prices can go up or down. So in those contexts, we can have a variety of things, but this is where you have your receipts to, and most of the time we have a routine of things that we buy. So you can sort of have an accurate guess of how much you spend based on your receipts, previous expenses, and what you tend to buy on a weekly or monthly basis. So your accuracy is very important. So now we know what we need to do before starting a budget. Um, and we all know the components of a budget is basically our income and expenses. That is it. There's nothing else to the understanding the basis of budgeting. Nothing else matters. Basically, what money you receive and basically what money you're spending. Sorry, what items or what things that you're spending your money on. Some, when we look at on the next slide, some examples of our income, you may be surprised. There's a variety of things, and the common one is, income from our employment income. But these are some typical examples of revenue or income that we receive, and a good one is money from family and friends. People don't classify it as income because it's coming from family and friends, but actually, that's your source of income that sustains you, so that needs to be classified as your income. Things like your pension income, child benefit, property income, all sort of benefits, investment income, tax credits, and student loans, and various social benefits. These are the avenues. There are more options, but what we classify as an income is any form of money received on a regular basis. Okay, so that is what we classify as an income. On the next slide, we look at the expenses, and there's a variety of things depending on your circumstance. And one of the things that I'll stress the most, and is a thing that I've grown to learn to be disciplined on, is my expenses is my expenses. The way my expenses, what I mean by that is, it is different from you, it's different from your friend, it's different even from your sibling, and it's different from your parents. It's different. And I remember myself when I got married, my expenses doubled. All right. And it's not any fault of my doing. It's because I'm now a family, and now I do have a 1-year-old son. Our expenses is different when you compare the budget that we have for when I was single and a bachelor, when I got married, and now I have a son. Is so different, and you can see the changes in life. So what I always say is that you do not need to compare yourself to anyone else. You need to focus on you and you only. You are not racing with your friend or people on social media. And I'm stressing on this is because the life that we're seeing nowadays, we are so compelled. That's why I put the emotional side of things of budgeting in this. We cannot let what is being put on social media or what we see our families and friends doing dictate what we need to do for our own income and our budget. We need to take that side of activities out of our lives. And this is something that not many financial advisors provide or tell you. And it's so important because they don't look at the psychological aspect of our budgeting. Why am I spending X amount on a holiday when I cannot afford it just because I've seen my friends do it? Or why am I going on holiday with my friends when I cannot afford it just because I want to be part of a social group? You see? So it's so important that you build a budget solely for you. If it's doing it for your family, you need to focus on you and your family only. All right. And on the next slide, it's one of the things that it's a big battle. A budget is one of the things that you are constantly in a battle between your needs and your wants. And if somebody said to me, I'm going to give you the latest iPhone today, of course I want that. I really do. But do I really need that? I always get promotional calls from Three Network. That is the network that I have, and they're always giving me discounts and all that. It's great to have that, but is it a need or is it a want? So building a budget, if we can actually deduce the needs versus from the wants, it helps us a lot to put everything into perspective. It's nice to go on a holiday. It's nice to give yourself a treat. It's nice to do certain things, but actually, is there a need now? Can I resist certain things so that I can put certain financial can I put myself in a better financial situation if I maintain a certain aspect of my needs rather than my wants? But also, this is where we fight with ourselves, and this is where a lot of marriages, a lot of or corporations, when I've been to board meetings where corporations fight on what they want to spend their income on, the revenue on, and there's a lot of bust ups in businesses. And even we know, even in our nation, there's a lot of fight about what the nation needs to be spending our revenue on. So it's these are the battles that we fight personally, in our household, as a nation, as a community, and it's something that we need to have a better understanding on. So I'm going to go through some tips, um, some tips on here, and I'll give you my objective, sort of like my objective reasons for having these budgeting tips. But and I'll tell you some of the pros and cons. And the first one is the 50/20/30 rule. We've heard this many financial experts. I've been talking about this 50/30 rule, and where they say 50% of your net income goes to your needs, 20% goes to your savings, and 30% goes to your wants. That is a neat tip to have. It makes perfect sense. It makes perfect sense. Don't get me wrong. The benefit of it is very simple and easy to follow, and also it encourages healthy financial habits where we are actually allocating 50% of our income on our needs. And here the key word is needs, but not our wants. So we're allocating. So what is the 50% on our needs? So it could be our mortgage or rent, council tax, water, electricity, gas, those kind of needs, the things that keeps us going, the things that keeps us alive, food, various things like that. And 20% goes to our savings. And it's so important for us to make sure that every time we do a budget, there's a need for us to have certain level of our income going to savings. There may be some times, and I've seen it happen, and it's happened to me personally. There may be some times where we haven't been able to allocate any amount to our savings due to unforeseen circumstances. And the tip also looks at 30% should go to our wants. Here is the difficult thing that I find challenging. Life may not fit for all lifestyle. So what I mean by that is there are some times where we see ourselves experiencing great, great need for spending more than we need to, and that 30% that we want to put for our wants, that is something I always shy away from. I always, for me personally, and from having coming from a Christian background, our wants are not being allocated. We need to have that faith and knowing that God is going to provide for our needs. So I always shy away from talking about wants. And if wants is something that you're being, it's something that is attracting you into the worldly things, the things that are not necessary for your life to, be going forward. And I look at my son. It's nice for him to have certain toys that the social media encourages us to have. But actually, is that a need for him, or can I put that amount towards savings for his future, or can I put that amount towards building him up in a better way. So this rule, this tip that we always see in the world of this 50-20-30 rule, it's great, but it doesn't talk about the true essence of life. And it's too generic in a way, and it limits us when there is the need for us to be flexible in life. So in some cases, what I mean by that is there may be a time where 70% of your income will be going to everything that you need to pay for. And the other 30% is it has to go to your savings. Or it could be a time where you have 90% of your income goes to all your needs. So this rule doesn't build it allocates a bigger portion for ones that naturally their pleasures. I'm not saying you shouldn't have the nice things of life, but actually is it at a detriment to the future that you want to have? Is it at a detriment to your own, you know, self? And is that a detriment of your own making sure that you are potentially getting yourself out of debt, saving for the future, saving for a rainy day? It's you need to think carefully about that when you're applying this sort of tips in life. The other financial tip is pay yourself first. I like this. I like this personally. Basically, what it means is that when you look at your budget, you allocate, let's say, if you earn £1,000, you allocate £200 to yourself and as a form of savings. And this is good. It means that you're prioritizing savings and investment. However, it has the disadvantages where it is not flexible, and you may overlook some essential expenses that are very important. So that means that when the shortfalls comes, you are unable to fill that. For example, let's say rent, because you paid yourself £200, you cannot afford to pay your rent and also even to feed yourself or pay for your travel to work. That is very important to make sure that you're covering the essentials, and this rule requires discipline as well. When you're paying yourself first, sometimes you'll be like, oh, I'm going to pay myself first, and without the proper planning, you may not save the money but still go into debt and cover to cover other unnecessities. So it's good, but it has this limitation. The zero-based budgeting is something that I always shy away from talking about, but it's something that is out there. So the reason zero-based basically means every aspect of every dollar, every pound of your income is assigned to a specific expenses, leaving you with a balance of zero. In our interaction session today, we will look at something like that later on. But with this, life is not zero balance budget. Life is not balanced. Life, there are some times when the boat is calm. There are some times when there's a storm going. There are some times when everything is in a good flow. There are some times when there's, periods of distress. So having the idea of that you're having a zero base budget is good. It helps you increase your financial awareness. However, I think sometimes it can be overwhelming that you need to allocate everything to an expense, and when there is, let's say, 1p left, oh, I haven't allocated 1p to something. What should I do? What should I do? And sometimes our natural inclination, maybe 1p is a bad example. Let's say if you need to allocate, let's say, £100 left after doing all your budget, or £100 is left. Wait, I have £100 left. So natural inclination is that I will spend more than what you should, or more than what you should. You see, so because I've got £100 less, yes, let me use it to buy this. Even though it's a nice thing to have, is it a need? So having a zero-based budget sometimes has its drawbacks. Um, and the last one, I call it the grandma's envelope budget. And sometimes these techniques does help. The reason why I call it grandma's budget is because those days I can't remember. My mom used to put her money under her pillow. That's where we never trust banks. like how we do nowadays. So they take all their income, they take their salaries and put it under their pillow. And this is a typical example, envelopes budget. Basically, you take your income and you allocate, let's say you have five envelopes, one envelope for your rent or your mortgages, one envelope for all your expenses, one envelope for fees or anything that you need to pay for, and you allocate it to every aspect in the envelope. And it's a good strategy, and it's a way of teaching you how to budget. And sometimes it's a good practice to teach kids when they are very young. It gives them something to think about, but actually, it's a time consuming technique. You may require to go to the bank several times to take out all your cash. And this doesn't give you room for flexibility as well. Let's say once the cash you put, let's say £200, you've allocated it into one of the envelope, it means that you don't give yourself flexibility. If something was to happen, let's say your car was to break down, how am I going to pay for this? Oh, I've not budgeted for that. Yes. So there's a need to be flexible. And you can see throughout these tips, flexibility is key. They are really good tips. However, they all have limited, disadvantages and drawbacks to them. And with this envelope technique, it also requires you to have a practical, in case somebody was to come into your house and get and you lose all your money, that's all your funds gone, basically with no insurance. So that's one of the drawbacks. But in all of these techniques, in everything that I've said today, if there's one thing you're going to leave from today's workshop, is what is the best budgeting method? And the best budgeting method is you. It's you. And it goes back to what I was saying before. You are your budget. Basically, what I mean is just put everything into perspective. You need to look at yourself and make that assessment. I cannot do it for you. Nobody else can do it for you. It's just you need to look at yourself deep down in yourself and understand that, okay, I know that I earned this X amount of money, and I know that I can afford X amount on this. Do I need to do this? Or what can I do to plan for X, Y, Z? This is you. You do not need somebody telling you to put 30% to your wants. You need to make that conscious decision for yourself. Because at the end of the day, this is your life that you're living. All right. So I always go back to the quotes that I mentioned earlier when we started. The way we spend our money is a reflection of our priorities. And a budget is telling your money where it should go instead of you're wondering where it has gone. You see, so it's so important for us to understand you need to understand where your money has gone and where your priorities are. Okay. So if personally you want to prioritize saving for a house, everything about your budget should reflect that. If personally you want to prioritize buying a car, everything about that needs to reflect that. If personally you want to pay off your student loans or credit cards or any kind of debt, everything about that needs to prioritize. And sometimes we live in a world where we are, as I was saying, we are so drawn to certain things. There's so much distractions that pulls us away from our money. But you need to be focused on exactly what your goals are. So anytime that you look at your budget, you need to understand, what are my goals? What am I trying to achieve? And it's something that I think that I got to realize the shift for me when I started realizing that every person that I come in contact with in my daily working environment, we do not have a clear picture of where my goals are. And goals do change as we go along in life. We do achieve certain goals and then we have to create new ones. That is perfectly fine. But if you do not have a clear picture of where you are, you would be making budget that will not be accurate, that will not, you will not be able to stick to it, you will not be motivated, and over time you will lose focus on it. So think about this. When you go to a gym and let's say you sign up for a gym membership and you sign up for a personal trainer, and let's say you wanted to work on your get physically healthy and get get yourself healthy and all that, it's not doing that gym on a single day that would make everything work. You see, it's a continuous activity. You need to do it for a period of time to see results. This is the same way the budget works. It is a continuous activities that you need to do it to see results. So let us move into our interactive session. So in our interaction session, I've created two profiles, and I I picked these profiles just at random. I've made these stories up, but I want you to put yourself in their shoes for 1 second. So we have Natalie, who is 18 and a student. And one of the things that she does, she's in the first year university. She's studying, and she also has a part-time job as well. She loves fashion, hanging out with friends, going to the movies, restaurant, etc. And she loves reading and traveling. And her dream is to be a travel writer. Okay, so this is where I want you all to, before moving on to the next slide, I want to get us talking. Please feel free to leave a message in the chat, or just feel free to unmute your mics to contribute to this session. So looking at this profile of Natalie, right? What do you think her source of income would be? This is not a trick question. Yeah.
Guys, please, come on, let's answer.
It's not going to be a lot.
Please, raise your hand so that we don't. Please, just put your hands up.
Yeah, sorry. There's a few comments that came through, so it mumbled up. Okay.
So, yeah, Color Queen, you have your
Okay,
hands.
I would say, so she is, she's a first year student because it's gone to quite small. So yeah, so I would say that she's probably having some student loan,
Okay.
and maybe obviously getting a salary, some form of salary from things, but she likes to travel and she likes to eat out and stuff. So so she's not careful, she end up spending more than what's coming in. But I don't know. This is how I kind of like see it, her being young and loving travel, fashion, because it mentioned fashion there. So that's something as well that, can take our money, because we can often go into a store and buy things that we don't necessarily need. But yeah, somebody else might have something else to say.
Yeah, thank you very much. That's a really good contribution.
Yeah, give please come in.
Oh, she's already mentioned it. So, yeah, I was going to say the same thing.
Sounds good. Yeah.
Probably maybe from family as well, her income.
Yeah, that's absolutely true, Gipsy. Thank you. I see somebody put from family and part of it. Yeah. Yeah, that's absolutely correct. So
Susie has her hands up. Susie.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I was about to say the same thing. Looking at the way she likes eating out and going to movies, there's definitely someone sponsoring her lifestyle. So definitely family, and part of it is also coming from her salary.
yeah, absolutely. That's really good. And I'm really pleased you for taking this in. It's good observation based on the profile we have here. So if we move to the second slide, I just did this budget, and you can see you're all absolutely right. She has a student loan, a student grant coming in, parent support, and from a part-time job. There could be other incomes that she could be earning. She could be eligible to other grants, any benefits, anything at all. So this is what I could come up with for this particular profile. And her expenses, you can see we have something like rent. Sorry, excuse me, rent. We have a phone, food, shopping, going out, clothing. It's a long list. And I'm not gonna lie, this is a typical example of an 18-year-old. When you look at my budget in my household, it's a very long list as well. And sometimes here we can see she earns this amount of 2100, and she spends 2100. But is this realistic? This is an open question to everyone. Is this realistic? And there's no right or wrong answer here, so please feel free.
Yes, Calvin.
Yeah, I think it is to a certain degree, because if she is not budgeting, so if she's getting a certain amount of money coming in and she's just going, and regardless of what the parents are giving her on top of the student loan and all the rest of it, so if she's spending it on restaurants, clothes and all the rest of it, she's going to probably end up realistically having more outgoings than what she's got coming in. So she is eventually going to fall into debt, because then most students will have a credit card to a certain degree. So you get your student loan, then you have your credit card, but then you end up maxing your card, and then you get your student loan every quarter to try to pay off some of the credit cards. So you're in a vicious kind of like cycle. Exactly. So this is what will basically happen when we are probably emotionally spending. So then the more low mood we get in, we decide, okay, do you know what, I'm going to take the credit card out and go and get something to cheer myself up. So then this is when we then start spiraling, and this is where the emotion comes into it. So so realistically, an 18-year-old that started off really can get into a lot of debt very, very early on in the game.
Yeah Thank you so much for this wonderful comment. Thank you.
Any hands? Okay, I guess there's none.
Yeah.
Okay, Susie.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so I think it's not realistic because of the profile. She likes hanging out with friends. It means that anytime friends should ask them to hang out, definitely there will be a change in her budget, because she loves to do that. She loves to travel. If there is a travel opportunity, she would go back to spend to travel. If there is a new restaurant opening, and looking at it, she didn't really make provisions for those probably things out of her, but like she tried to be as detailed as possible, but she didn't make provisions for those random things that I know as an 18-year-old she would definitely like to do. So it's not very realistic.
Yeah, 100%. That's true. Thank you so much for the contribution. I actually rest my case. You've all brought out this nicely, and it's really true. And the question that I put on here is, how can we improve this budget? What can we do? If you were Natalie, let's say, how am I going to improve my budget? And think about it this way: how am I going to improve my budget? Am I improving it from the standpoint of my income, or am I improving it from the standpoint of my expenses? I'm going to open the floor, whichever way you want to take it. How do you think we can improve this budget?
Yeah, CQ. Yeah, Calvin, come in.
First of all, going back to the drawing board, it's about the amount of money spending. So once we look, because we're going to have enough clothes, enough shoes and all the rest of it. So now that we've got this particular budget to spend, we now have to look at what we're actually spending. So when we look at what's coming in, then we need to really be frugal about what we're actually spending our money on. And as you said, weighing up, do we actually need that? Because there's needs and there's wants. So once we start peering back and pruning back on some of the things that we want and making a differentiation between wants and need, then we start realizing, so it's a bit like if we look after the pennies, the pounds look after themselves.
Yeah.
So we then are able, then we start realizing that we're going to have more money to save, and we're spending less money on things that we're often repeating. So
Yeah.
therefore, like, how many pairs of trainers do we need, by an example, or how many handbags do we need, by an example? So then we start looking at it from a more cerebral point of view and
Yeah.
saying, right, I now actually need to pull back. I need to look after my resources better. And that way, when we start thinking about what we're spending, we're then going to make better decisions.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. And just to add a little bit before someone speaks, I always ask this question. Let's say you mentioned about trainers and shoes and all that. Okay, let's say I'm going to scale back on how much. So on the budget, she spends £150. And there's a monthly budget, by the way. So she spends £150 on clothes, shoes, and trainers. I'm going to scale back. But as a financial advisor or someone who helps to build a budget, I'll ask you a question. Is that realistic? Are you actually going to do that? Because here lies the situation where human tendencies, our emotions, we are so used to buying clothes and shoes and all of that. And because I've built this habit, is it a realistic choice? Is it a realistic, decision to make? And are you going to stick to it? So it's a tough thing. Yes, it's easy to say I'm going to scale back on shoes and clothes, but realistically, are you going to do that? How do you draw the line and how do you battle this out? And this is another question I have for the audience. I'm opening it up as well. How can we improve this budget as well, from the standpoint of an income and standpoint of expenses?
Yes, Susie.
Okay, so I'm going to talk about the budget. For the other one, I think I'll have to come back to it. So I think from the beginning of the presentation, you stated about prioritize, and I think that is what I see with the budget. It's like I think I've also done that before. You just put things together just because you want to know what you're spending on, but you don't actually look at it from what's has to be important. So looking at where even her course materials are, they come after her clothing. It means that she'll definitely choose buying clothes over buying her course materials. So that is the thought that came into her mind. Going out even comes before her course materials.
Yeah.
Phone comes before her course materials while she's a first year student.
Yeah.
And most of her income is coming from her student grants.
Yeah.
Meaning that it has to be her top priority before any other thing comes. So first, I think it has to be about prioritizing her budget first. The
Yeah.
things that are contributing to her income. The student grant is what is giving her majority of her income, meaning that if she should lose or fall out of school, she's going to lose 1,055 and 55 pounds out of her income. I mean, she can't fulfill about, I think, should I say 80% or 90% of her
More.
budget?
Yeah.
Yes, so she have to prioritize and lay them out exactly how it's supposed to be. Because jumbling all of them together, definitely as a human being, you look at your budget and you start from the first thing. Let me pay my rent first. Let me do my phone. Let me go food shopping. Let me go out. Let me buy my clothes before. And definitely with the lifestyle that she's living, if she doesn't take care, she might overspend within the first 4 items because she likes going out, hanging out with friends and doing all that. So it, like as I was saying, I'm giving an example. I believe that the rent comes, then the cost materials come, so that at least even if she is not able to do other things, she has her schooling intact or on point. So that is the little I can say about the budget.
Absolutely right. It's as if we compared notes. I sent you some notes before we had this conversation. You're absolutely right. And I can't even add anything more. exactly to what you said. So thank you so much. It's so telling. And most of the time, when in life, we think that we are prioritizing, or we think that this is something that is a need, but actually, in hindsight, it's a want. So it's so important to prioritize the thing. So let's say, for instance, she loses her job, as you were saying, and the parents are unable to support her. So if you get into that situation, how are you going to manage that? And this is where survival skills kick in. You have to survive. So there is, and I'm 100% sure that we will be in a situation where, okay, I have to let go of my going out or Netflix, or I have to prioritize my course materials. There's so many things that you would let go. But if, let's say, you went 2, 3 months without those things, does it change who you are? Does it change, the kind of friends that, if your friends leave you based on the fact that you're not going out with them, then you shouldn't be friends with them. If I say that to young people, and don't be put pressured or pressurized into doing things just because your friends are doing it. So, or your friends are getting new upgrades of phones, and yeah, don't be pushed into that. So it's so telling of our priorities, and there's nothing that I can say, to a young person like this, and for us to reflect on our priorities if XYZ was to happen. So thank you very much. I know we show on time, but these things that we've just picked up on here, and as you can see, the budget that we can see on our screen, I want you to go out of today feeling confident in yourself with the things that we've heard. I want you to take the time to sit down, write these things out, and see how you can prioritize, see how you can improve your budget. I can pinpoint certain areas where I think you should do it, but I always look at from the perspective of, is it realistic to you? And as I said, you are the only person that can take absolute control. It's the same way when you go to a gym and the trainer says do XYZ. The trainer is not going to do it for you. You are the one going to do all the exercise. The same way when you go to the hospital and a physio or a doctor says do XYZ, the doctor is not going to take the medicine for you, tell you to do certain procedures. You are the one going to do everything. So that is the same thing in a budget. It's all about you, or it's all about your family, or it's all about your community if you're building a budget for that purpose. So we have to form a habit of taking control. So I want us to go to the slide 24. So from my side, what I can leave you today is, the first thing is track your income and expenses. So what I mean by tracking is, let's say you've sat down, you've written out your income, you've written everything that you spend your money on. Let's do a test for this month. I said I was going to spend, let's say, £600 on our household food and shopping. Am I going to make the mark? Am I going to spend less? Am I going to spend more? What are the things that I can do to, let's say, reduce that amount? And am I getting things that are essential, or of luxury? There's nothing wrong questioning yourself about that. Occasionally, yeah, treat yourself with 1 or 2 things, but don't do it as an expense of an influence of others. Do it for you to know that, okay, I'm meeting my goals and targets. You see, and one of the things that when somebody say, how can I improve my budget, we always go to the point of getting more money. And I tell you that if you get a new job with 10K or 20K more than what you're earning, you are still going to experience the same issue of your expenses. So the problem is not getting more money. And I tell you, the problem is not getting more money. The problem is how we spend our money. It's how we see ourselves and our emotions, our prioritizations, and whatnot. So people say, "Oh, I'm struggling. Okay, I'm going to start looking for a new job." It's good. It's good, but you have to be able to track your expenses, especially. Categorize your expenses. There's some expenses that are constant. You know that every month they stay the same. Let's say for mortgage, if you're fixed for 2, 3 years, you know that it's going to stay the same. If it's going to fluctuate, then you know that from time to time it may go up or go down based on the base rate. For something like phone bill, most of the time it stays the same. Those variable costs, those are the areas where you can win. Variable costs are things that do not stay the same this from month to month, like food. For example, like your car petrol. Some months you may drive less, so you may not spend more on petrol. Other months you may drive more for unforeseen reasons, so you spend more on petrol or travel if you're using public transport. So those are the so categorize it and prioritize as well, and set realistic goals. And the key word is realistic. Sometimes somebody will come to me that will be, oh yes, I'm going to save £2,000 this month. I'm going to save £1,000 this month. But realistically, when we go through your income and expenses, you may think you'll be able to save that, but you cannot save that. So it's so important for you to set realistic goals. Realistically, maybe you can effortlessly save £500. Do that. Or if you want to set realistic goals, for example, I want to put money aside. One of the things I'm doing now, setting my son up when he turns 18, he has a pot of funds that he can use for his future life. Realistic goals. I've set this amount. This is what I know, no matter what circumstance I have in a month, I know this amount I can give to my son every month in his savings account. And that is a realistic goal. Don't set an amount where, when something happens, you cannot do that. That is not realistic to your life. So set, and the next thing is to prioritize savings and paying off debt. Religiously, we see debt. There are some debt where it takes time to get out, which is fine, but there are other debts where sometimes it's not good. Debt is seen in a religious context as you were slave to the lender. So always you want to put yourself in a situation where you are free from any external forces. If I put that in quotes. So debt. We can have another session where we can talk about debt into details, where we can look at how we can categorize these debt and work on them. So savings is very good. Savings can be used for various things, as I mentioned earlier. But one of the things that we do not, which I'm going to tie it down to it, is building an emergency fund. Emergency fund is as a result of your savings. You can apportion some of your savings for that. So you can use that for if something was to happen, you have these funds that you can use to pay for your car repairs. You can also budget as well in your monthly budget allocation of money that you're going to use for car repairs. When, let's say, your MOT is due in November, so you've got from January to November to save up for your MOT. MOTs, as you know, these places, warehouses, they always charge us a lot when it comes to MOTs and services. So you plan ahead, okay? And I'm going to work a little bit backwards. Stay disciplined and be flexible. Discipline, budgeting in every aspect of our lives. Discipline is key. Discipline is key in our lives. And flexibility in the context of, okay, this month, the cost for my food went up because I had to buy extra XYZ for my son. I had to buy extra this, that, and that, medication and all sort of things. That's fine. But it doesn't mean that because I needed to buy these essentials, flexibility is mostly I want it to go to our needs, not our wants. Stay flexible for our needs, not our wants. That's one of the things that I'll always say. So be flexible on our needs as well, and be disciplined. It's a very difficult thing to do. Discipline, when we are disciplined for so long and you look back, you'll be amazed, you'll be encouraged. And there are many good stories out there of how disciplined they've stayed and they've been able to pay off their mortgage within 10, 20 years, whereas it hasn't taken their whole life. I'll send some links to your leader, and you can hear some of the good stories that goes to Dave Ramsey on debt and debt relief and other things as well. And finally, review and adjust your expenses regularly. So what I mean by this, as the month is progressing, look at how much you've spent so far. Let's say if you pick, let's say, at a food budget. Let's say you're planning to spend £600 on food, shopping, and everything, and we are middle of June. Okay, and you're left with, let's say, £400. Okay, this is what's left. Can I do better? Review your budget as you go along, review your needs as you go along. And if there's this fixed cost that, for example, if you can find better deals on your phone contract, on your electricity and gas, on your internet, those kind of things where there's contracted for a period of time, and look at when the due date is, and look for cheap and affordable contracts when the due date is at. There's one famous money management. The name has escaped me, but on his website you can go and compare different amenities like gas, electricity, and on those things as well. It will help you stay competitive and find the affordable deals out there. So these are the top tips I'm going to leave with you. And as you're a book club, I was thinking about what books can I recommend for the team for you all to read at your leisure time. And there's 3 books that came into mind. And the first one is my personal favorite, The Total Money Makeover. And I put a caption, it's a straightforward and non-nonsense guide to budgeting, right? Paying off debt and building wealth with a step-by-step plan. So that's by Dave Ramsey. And the other book is Your Money, Your Life. It focuses on transforming your relationship with money and aligning your spending with your values. Okay, so you can see the themes that I'm trying to build for today. Our relationship, money is a relationship, all right? So, and the last book is the One-Page Financial Plan. Helps you simplify your financial life, focus on what matters, okay? Most, including budgeting as part of the overall plan. So I'll leave you with these tips, and I would love to hear some feedback. How you've gone along with reading these books. You don't have to read it all at once, but if you have time, look up for these books. Have some time to read it, and let me know what your thoughts are. And I leave you with one word: you are the best. You are the one. No one else. Look at your values. Check your relationships with your with money, and continually review your budget. And it will reveal to you where your needs and where your wants are. And always look at yourself. Don't get persuaded by what others are doing in the world where we're living of today. So all I can say now is thank you so much for listening to me. It's been absolutely a pleasure to come and speak to you all, and I've really enjoyed my time and the interaction with you all. So thank you. Do follow me on my page, and I would like to hear personal conversations with you all. So thank you very much, and I'm open for questions if you have time. You can leave your questions to
I think we can spare since we don't often do some of these things, and this is very important. So if you guys don't mind, we can spend like 5 to 6 minutes asking questions, and then after that, I have the slides. So I'm asking George, can I share with those that are here today?
Of course, certainly you can.
Okay.
You have my permission to share with the team, and if the team needs any further, do send questions through, and I'll be able to write them up, and you can share with the team as well, with everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. So, questions, please. We'll spend like 5 minutes or so. If you have any question, George is still here, please. So, Gifty, you have your hands up, please.
Hi, George. Thank you so much. That was a nice presentation, really informative. Thank you. I just wanted to ask, I've not been here for long, but when I came here, a few friends were like, you have to get a credit card for your credit score for future purchases, like when you want to get something from the bank. I was just torn between, like, literally they were kind of saying, oh, you have to get a phone on maybe contract to build your scores and things like that, which I was really not interested, because I buy phone when I need it, not because I want a credit score. Just wanted to know, is that true? Is it just a myth, or you have to get that to get your scores good and things like that?
Yeah, thank you very much, Kitty, for the question. In circumstances, in the world of finance, having no credit history means negative as well, and having credit history is good as well. Having a credit card, it's always important to take a credit card in your limit. One of the things that a credit in the finance, they'll always bombard you with having a limit, let's say for 3 to 4,000 or 2,000 credit card, which entices you to spend over even your limit. So if you can take a credit card, let's say for £100 or £200, and you only use it, let's say, for a tiny purchase and pay it off as soon as the bill.
And it was good.
Irene, please mute.
It's a good practice to have. The reason I say that is it builds your credit history, and also it gives a signal to the financial industry that you are credit wealthy when it comes to the time in the future. If you needed to, let's say, buy a house, they can look at these and look at you as a good credit history. All right. So having no credit doesn't mean that, oh, you are safe. Sometimes it goes against you. Having credit and using all the credit limits, for example, your credit card, is bad. So always take a credit card that even if you were to spend, let's say, £50, you can pay it off as soon as possible. Okay. So do not fall in the trap of where the credit companies will send you £1,000 credit card and you become so happy, oh, I can have £1,000 to spend, but you have no plan of how you're going to pay it off if you spend it all. So be careful. So if you were to spend £50, know that, okay, I need to pay this off as soon as possible within the 30-day cycle, so that on your credit file, it shows that your utilization on your credit history is what tells the credit, file, makes you healthy credit in the future. So be careful of how you manage it. Okay.
Okay, thank you. So you would advise I get one, isn't it? And then
yeah, I would advise that you get one, but make sure that you get one that do not entice you to spend more than your limit. So get something small and use it for even paying, let's say, for your food shopping, and pay that off using your real income, so that it shows that you're active, you have a good credit history. Okay, so that builds your credit file and boosts your credit rating. But what many people fall in the trap, so I'm always guiding people on the dangers. Don't fall in the trap because I have a credit limit of £500, it means I can spend it. No. And then you don't have, your circumstance, you're not able to pay that £500 off quickly. So your utilization, if you can pay it off quickly, that's fine. It shows that you can pay off your credit as quickly as possible within the 30-day cycle. So that keeps you in a good credit history. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. I actually fell in that trap, and so I actually stopped using it. I just wanted to know if I have to go back for it again, or probably not do it at all. I know we have I've seen another hand. Just want to ask this last one.
Certainly, that's fine.
About for instance, probably getting a car. If I've planned to get a car, would you advise, the ones you go for financial plan or something, you pay it monthly, or probably if I had the money in my account, getting the car? I've heard different views, but just because you are from a financial background, I just wanted to know, what would you advise? I know you said it's personal, but
Yeah.
what would you advise as a financial advisor? Yeah, thank you.
That will be another hour of conversation, but
Exactly. So I was going to say
no,
there will be another session for because I've seen someone ask a question about investment, and
Okay.
today is literally on budgeting. So I was thinking questions to be within, but fair enough. We'll have another session for investment, for
certainly.
car finance, whatever it is. So
Yeah.
guys,
I'll give you a quick answer. The
Okay.
financial world, they will kill me for this if I say this. It's
Yeah.
business. At the end of the day, let's say you bought a car for £1,000. You took the car value depreciate. It's not something that I'll always, as soon as you drive the car out of wherever you bought it, the value goes down. And they think about the interest and all these commissions they've added on top. So even the value of what you're paying back in the car finance is not worth it from my perspective.
Okay.
And I've fallen in the trap countless and countless of time. And where I come from this is that if you have money to buy a car of £500, do that. Don't fall in the trap of taking a finance where it will take you, 5 years to pay that off. And 90% of that is on interest, actually not on the value of the car that has depreciated within that time. But that is the quick and short answer. But we can have personal conversation and I can look through things with you. But that is what I'll say to you for now. Thank you.
That's really helpful. Thank you so much.
So guys, thank you. Please follow George on Instagram at George K French. He has another organization called Church and Money, where he organizes talks, some of these talks. So if your church or you have group, anything that you think you would want George to come on and speak to anything about money, please do reach him and follow him on Instagram as well. George, thank you so much. This is
a pleasure. Thank you.
Good information that we've learned. We are yet to pick our next read in 2 weeks' time. So we will add, I think the first one that you mentioned being your best, your favorite, we'll add it, and then folks will vote on if we want to read that. We'll vote, and then even if it's not selected this coming month,
no problem.
it will still go for the next one. But so yeah, thank you so much for your time.
It's a pleasure. Thank you so much for listening, and have a good evening and a blissful week, everyone. God bless you all.
Thanks, George.
Thank
you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye.
So
Bye.
for everyone, I'm going to stop sharing. Guys, thank you so much for making this evening session a success. I'm so glad that you guys came, the interaction, the questions, and we've learned a lot this evening.
Yes,
and our time is actually gone. So if there isn't anything regarding our book club, next week we are doing the chapter 12 and 13. And then I have already selected our book. So I'll add one of George's own to it. And then I'll put it, myself or Susie will put it on the chat. And then we'll vote on so that we'll have our book ready. For the next session. And also for the Jumbo Radio, please, they called me back again. I actually had a meeting with them, Zoom meeting, and they really want us to be coming in for the book club session. I was saying to Susie that it's as if they need us more than we need them, but at the part of what we are doing, the impact that we are leaving to the listeners and all that. So I really want to admonish. We're going to be in for just twice in every month. So yeah, twice in a month, and then we'll do the recording. The days that we are not in, they will replay what we were in to record and to live. So please, I've put Susie, I think Susie raised a poll for that. So our next Jumbo Radio will be on the 14th of June. Please make it a point. Let me know. Vote on those dates whenever it will work for you, and then let's go out there. And then, because look at someone had come to share with us. The things that we are learning from the books, let's also make it a point to go out there on the radio station, share with people to also impart their life, because this is all it is with the book club, to be people that learn and also to impart the knowledge that we've got, even as we are making ourselves better people, learning, relearning, growing. We want to impart those knowledge to other people as well. So thank you so much. And then as he said, it is you, the budget is you. So I'm going to forward. I will not put the slide on the WhatsApp chat. I'll send it to the people that were here today. So I'll send it through your email, and we'll put it in the chat that we've sent it through your email. Get time, go through it, draw your budget, and then let's be financially confident on how we handle our money. As I was so glad, he being a man, talking about emotions and all that, and it really has impact on even how we manage our finances as well. So thank you so much. If there isn't anything, have a blessed week, and we'll see you next Sunday.
Bye. Bye. Have a good week.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye. Bye.
Bye.